So in my time of reviewing phones, I've used quite a bit of budget devices out there to mid-range devices. And Huawei was one of those. And honestly, most of the time they didn't really deliver that much for the price when it came to that budget range. However, with the Huawei P Smart Z, it seems that there might be a change coming. We get a full screen display, as you can see. And of course, we get a motorized front camera. Now let's find out how this device actually performs. And if this is any good for a budget price. So, the Huawei P Smart Z. Now to start off, what made me consider this phone is the price itself. For 269 euros, I get a device with a nice two-tone color back, with a modern design, with a motorized front camera, and in terms of bezels, well, pretty much as any high-end phone out there. But of course, with a price like this, they're gonna make cuts to make this device for this price. For one, it is a plastic built phone, and for myself, I'm fine with it as long as the frame itself is made out of metal. Now, while I've been looking all around to see if I can confirm whether this is a plastic bag or just a very thin layer of glass, seeing how easily I got this scratched up makes me believe this is possibly plastic. Again though, I cannot confirm this, but I'm very careful with my devices, so there is that. But with that being said, overall though, this phone does feel solid in the hand. It feels like it will last longer than, well, previous ones I've tested from Huawei. This includes the front motorized camera that is tested up to 15 kilograms of weight. Though I have noticed that the front camera is touching the right side more, making it go a bit more to the right in general, so it's not perfectly straight. But let's get into the specs a bit, and this is what made me step back a little bit. And I'm not talking about the problems Huawei currently is having with Google and so on. The Huawei P Smart Z comes with a Kirin 710F in it. Now I have some experience with the Kirin 710 in the Mate 20 Lite. Now that is the 710 normal, there was an F behind it as far as I know. But several times on that phone itself it wasn't performing that well, even more so when I compared it to some other phones around the same price with a Qualcomm chip inside. But the worries that I had are put down to a little bit of a rest. While it isn't the best chip out there, lags have been cut down so much, where I only have it sometimes, so it's very limited. With that being said though, it isn't the smoothest experience overall on this device. Next to that, it features an acceptable 4GB of RAM, 64GB of internal memory, which you can expand via the microSD or use it as a dual SIM. Its display is a pretty good 6.59 inch display with a full HD plus resolution. It gets pretty bright and colors are fine, though because it's an LCD, blacks aren't the blackest out there. But the biggest thing I think is done really well is battery life. With a 4000 mAh battery, this easily lasts me through the day and then some, giving me easily about 7 or maybe 8 hours of screen on time, depending on use. But charging this 4000 mAh does take a bit of time. There is no official mention on what kind of watt this can charge up to. So my advice, charge it up at the night, but like I said before, this has great battery life. I'm not that worried about it. But let's dive into the camera setup. So for the back we have a dual camera setup of course. The main one is a 60 megapixel sensor with a 1.8 aperture, with the second one being a depth sensor with 2 megapixels. And in terms of stills, what it really nails is pictures of flowers. I like the contrast and general exposure for a phone around this budget. Colors look really realistic. And then of course having some nice shots from buildings as well. However, it isn't perfect. This camera, while in general being good for the price in daylight, can have some shots that don't look good as well. And sometimes having a pretty bad dynamic range and exposure as well. Because of it, pictures can look flat and simply bad. And in low light again, it is a mixed bag. It does much better than some other Huawei devices around this price that I have tested, even above it, and compared to some other phones as well. In general, shots look decent, but also a bit too soft. And in night mode, it can sometimes help with better exposure of lights, however it does come with more grain because of it. But something that I also noticed is when I take a shot in low light and I use night mode, the resolution will be much lower. A normal shot is at 4608 by 3456, but with night mode it's 3264 by 2448. Not to mention that in some cases not getting the focus right at all, and in some cases it just starts to look like a drawing with too much sharpening attempts, making it look very unnatural. And then let's talk about the selfie camera, which isn't awkward at all. Anyway, the selfie camera is actually pretty decent on this phone. It does a pretty good job with dynamic range and it's decently sharp as well, where you don't lose too much details on your face. And another point is that in low light it automatically activates the display, turning it white so you have better lighting on your face. So the Huawei P Smart Z, I want to end this with the general impression that I have of the device. Now first off, I think this is a pretty fine device. I think this is the best throw Huawei has done for a mid-range / budget device. However, there are some of course issues with it. One of those is of course the scratch getting there after 2 days of using it. I've used it a bit longer now, like 1.5 weeks, and there aren't any extra scratches, but getting that after 2 days, that's quite fast. So it would have been nice if they actually gave you a clear case with it, which others do for around this price. Apart from that, I think the camera is good, but it still needs some improvements in general. And the selfie camera, it's, like I said, it's a decent thing. It feels secure right now though, but seeing how it pushes more to the right, I'm not 100% sure how long it will last. But so far it seems fine and I haven't had any stutter or anything like that. It's just a bit slow going up. Anyway, I think this is a good device. I think battery life is the most impressive thing about this device. And I think this is something you can look at when you look at a budget device. There are some better options out there possibly, but they also have their other problems with it. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed this review, and if you have any questions, just ask me below and I will reply to them if I can. Anyway, don't forget to leave a like and of course subscribe to my channel with the notification on so you get a notification when I upload a new video. Stay tuned for more content, and there is a video coming for the Moto G7, and of course next week I'm gonna get the Sony Xperia 1, so stay tuned for that as well. I'm gonna compare it with the camera of the S10 and see how they perform and if Sony has improved quite a lot with that one. Anyway, stay tuned and have a good one.